everybody. Thank you, Chloe. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 5th in our 6-part series of regional interfaith dialogues. We are going to be live streaming this event as well as recording it. So even though we may be not so many people in the room just yet, we will be having many more participants online. So, and also I think on our YouTube, if I'm correct, Chloe, is that correct? I think we'd be streaming on YouTube and on Facebook. So we'd like to, thank you. So we'd like to just welcome everybody who's online with us, no matter where you are. It is an absolute joy and a privilege and a pleasure to have you with us. I see, though, that the people that I had invited to do opening prayers are not in the room just yet. So I wonder then if we could possibly ask one of our speakers to offer an opening prayer for us. Rabbi Emma, may I come to you?
Sure.
Thank you so much.
So without having any sense of what was being hoped for in this moment, I'll just invite us all to open ourselves to one another, to learning, to fellowship, to coming together in faith, and to all of that which connects us and all of that which is beyond us. May it be a wonderful morning of community and collaboration.
Amen. Indeed. And thank you so much. In fact, that was absolutely perfect. Is there anybody else who would also like to offer an opening prayer for us? What about you, Hajat?
Thank you, Lord, for this day. We thank you for this day. We pray that you come in our midst as we deliberate on very important matters of the planet today. May you give us the wisdom to take necessary decisions as we deliberate today in the sharing community. May we, all those who are going to join us, may you hasten their steps so that they are able to join us in good time, so we can join in the sharing community. In glorification of your name, we have prayed. Amen. Amen, amen, amen.
Amin, Amin. Thank you so much, Hajat. I appreciate that as well. SAFSI is a multi-faith organization, and for that reason, we always start our events with prayers from different faiths. So I wonder if we may invite Joseph Mundadi, who is our third speaker for the day, to also bless this, this event for us. Joseph?
Hello?
Hello, would you like to offer a short opening prayer for us as well?
Okay.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Let's pray. Dear Lord, we thank you for this opportunity that you are granting us this morning through SafeC, so that we can share together with the people that you have created on what our faith say about sharing community. We are requesting that you, Holy Spirit, lead us through the power that you have given us by our Savior, Jesus Christ. Start with us as Alpha, lead us with as Emmanuel, and finish with us as Omega, in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. We are now well and truly officially open, and it is such a pleasure to welcome you all. And unofficially, I've now also introduced you to our three speakers, Rabbi Emma Gottlieb, Joseph Mundadi, and Hajat Sebiala. So those are the people that you'll be hearing from a little bit later. In the meantime, what's going to happen before then, as I'm going to just tell you a little bit about this time that we are experiencing right now, which is Green Action Week. And after that, I'll be handing over to my colleague, Gabriel Manyangadzi, who's in Zimbabwe. He's SAFC's Climate Justice Coordinator. And Gabriel is going to be telling us about the United Nations Day of Food Loss and Waste Awareness, which was yesterday, the 29th of September. Today, though, we are speaking about sharing community. What does your faith say about sharing community? So I am going to share my screen because I'm going to be telling you about the, there we are. Sorry, that didn't quite work. Share screen. And that didn't work either. So just sorry, that was the wrong thing. So just one more try before we revert to. And here we are. So, welcome to Green Action Week, everybody. Please just indicate if there's a problem with my sound, as long as you can hear me and you can see me and you can see my screen. So welcome to Green Action Week. And the reason that we have chosen as our subject today, what does your faith say about sharing community, is because it is Green Action Week. Green Action Week is taking place this year from the 4th to the 10th of October. And so we've asked ourselves, well, exactly what is Green Action Week? And if my, and when I press that, there we are. So where did Green Action Week come from? Green Action Week is a global campaign to promote sustainable consumption, and it is a project of the Swedish Society for Nature Conservation. It was started in 1990, and last year, in 2020, more than 50 organizations from around the world in more than 30 countries actually participated in Green Action Week. And this is actually quite a big number, especially given the fact that it's really hard, given the COVID changes, to think about how do you share community in a time of COVID. Green Action Week tells us that sustainable living is a way of life that seeks to reduce the individual and collective impact on the environment by making environmentally responsible choices. But how do you do that when it seems that very little of our connection is actually happening face to face? And of course, we have been subjected to being online. Well, one of the things that COVID-19 has really taught us is that the pandemic is that sharing community is a necessity for survival. It's not a luxury, it's not an optional extra, and quite frankly, it is not even a choice. So how do we do this? In the past, there have been some really innovative and beautiful ways of sharing community, as you can see from this collage of pictures. I love the idea up here in the top right-hand corner about coming together to learn about legumes. Such a wonderful, nutritious and staple part of our diets, and such a cost-effective and really helpful for helping people with food security and health and those issues. But there have been things like seed exchanges. There have been events that have looked at secondhand clothing, or pre-loved clothing, should I say, where people have come together. So instead of throwing things away, we bring it together and see what we can, how we can swap. There have been book exchanges, information sharing, tree planting, all sorts of wonderful and interesting events. But in this time of COVID, our food security has become one of the things topmost in our minds. So SAFC's connection with Green Action Week, it's interesting because SAFC is a multi-faith organization, and of course Green Action Week is secular. So what is our role? How does it all work together? But if you think about it, in SAFC, community is who we are, and sharing is what we do. So last year, we invited all of our faith leaders to have an online picket. And what we did was that we invited them to take photographs of themselves sharing what they do to save the earth. So there's Princess Mvabaza on the far left. She serves her community, and she really does, because she has a soup kitchen, and she is absolutely consistent and dedicated to sharing or to serving her community. Tendai in the next picture, he is very, very proactive about helping to restore earth that has been eroded. And he is very, very clear that that's his message to the earth, is that we have, or to people, is that we have to look after the earth and look at behind him what is the outcome of not looking after our earth. Reverend Nima is our next photograph, and as an earth keeper, she practices the 3 R's: reduce, reuse, and recycle. And Pastor George, who you'll see next to her in the orange mask, he fights corruption, and that's why he's wearing the orange mask that says Pansi, with corruption, and it was Down with Corruption, which is particularly referring to the PPE corruption that was taking place during the height of our lockdown. There were many other actions in SAFC during Green Action Week of 2020 as well. We had an online workshop to show people about food gardening, and John Nzira taught us so much. He's a renowned permaculturist, and over a series of 9 workshops, he really taught us a lot about how to create our own food sustainability in our gardens. We had a very small gathering. Well, it wasn't so small, but we were very careful to keep our numbers within the COVID-friendly limits. At Vegiskraal, we collected something like 40 bags within an hour and a half of 40 bags of rubbish. And there you can see the invitation that took us to Vegiskraal. Here's Bishop Jeff, our SAFC's founder, with his call to action, which is that he picks litter wherever we go. And of course, during that week, we also held a regional interfaith dialogue on what does your faith say about food security and climate justice. Sharing community is important to all of us, and we share in different ways. Sharing community in Green Action Week teaches us that we all have compassion towards the earth and towards each other as the common factor. And compassion is a common value that flows through all of our religions. We often say that you can take the values out of a religion, but you cannot take the religion out of the values. Or is that the right way around? I'll have to think about that again. I think I might have said it the wrong way around. And the common goal, of course, is to be inclusive and have a better life for everyone. And everyone means really everyone. We cannot just work in silos in our communities anymore. Green Action Week also fits into our SDGs, and we look particularly at this being the International Year of Fruits and Vegetables. And that's one of the reasons that I have asked our Climate Justice Coordinator, Gabriel, to tell us about today's United Nations acknowledgement of food waste awareness. And of course, all of these SDGs fit into all of our faith, all of our sharing of community, and all of our secular activities that work towards becoming active citizens and making the world a better place. So sharing community is really about collaboration, working together for a common good that must include everyone, because the moment you start excluding people, you have to ask yourself, why are you excluding them, and for what purpose? And if you start to exclude people, then how can you ever really speak about sharing community and about working for the common good? So Green Action Week, in their mission and vision, they focus on strength in diversity, and so does SAFC, and so do people of faith. Green Action Week tackles inequality, so does SAFC, and so do people of faith. And Green Action Week seeks to demonstrate solutions at grassroots level, and so does SAFC, and so do people of faith. So all of these focus areas speak into something that we do normally as people of faith and as citizens of the world, as people who practice humanity at every level. So this year, 2021, Green Action Week is a very full week for us. And we're starting it off with this regional interfaith dialogue entitled, What Does Your Faith Say About Sharing Community? So, and here we have the invitation that you will all have seen about sharing community, but also I want to tell you very briefly about some of the other things that are happening in SAFC during this week, or during the week ahead. Gabriel Manyangadzi is continuing with his series of sustainable consumption workshops on food security. We've invited faith leaders to make 1-minute videos of themselves speaking about the actions that they take in their communities and some of the issues that they face and some of their solutions to those. I believe there's going to be a cleanup operation in Lilongwe, and we've invited people to just try 1 week no plastic, and that's harder than you think. And just think about the motivation is what plastic does to the earth, what plastic is doing to our marine life, and it's not pretty. We've also got some high school students who are planting trees, and we'll be having a reconnect gathering of our Cape Town fleet, that's Faith Leader Environmental Advocacy Training, during the course of next week. And then next week also on Saturday, which is the Saturday of Green Action Week, we'll be having another cleanup operation, and this time in Q Town, in Q Town, starting at the Calvinist Church at 8:30 for anybody who's in Cape Town and would like to come along. And we will be cleaning up that part of our area. So I hope that gives you some inspiration. And if you are in an area that is not mentioned here, perhaps one of these ideas could work for you, and you can start to think about what it is that you could do for Green Action Week to really just reassure the planet which continues to support us, that in fact we are on her side and we are doing our best to support her too. Thank you for listening. Please visit greenactionweek.org for more ideas and guidance about Green Action Week activities. And remember to let us know what you're doing. Send us your photographs with a little bit of a report, even just a very short report, 200 words maybe, about what it is that you're doing or have done to support the earth during Green Action Week and beyond, because remember, for most of us, actually, Green Action Week is all the time. Thank you, everybody, and that is my presentation complete, and I will stop sharing now so that we can hand over to Gabriel. Gabriel, are you ready for us?
Share, please. Thank you very much, everyone, and a very good morning. And I'm going to talk about the International Day of Awareness to food loss and waste. And I'm going to try and rush through the presentation. I just took out one quotation or one reference from the Bible, which says, when God gave Moses the law for his people, one was to let some crops stay in the field so that the poor could glean them for their families. And this goes together with the theme that we are looking at of sharing community. We should leave something for the poor in terms of our food, in terms of the clothes, as was mentioned by Rev Berry earlier on. And now moving on to the day that we are commemorating, which was yesterday, the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste. And why this particular day? And starting off, the September 29 was designated as the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste in order to promote global efforts and collective action against responsible consumption and production of food. This day is especially marked to spread awareness about sustainable consumption and production of agriculture-based food products. It is deemed essential in circumstances where thousands of people across the impoverished nations are standing on the brink of universal food crisis. On the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste for 2021, it is a clear call to action for public and local authorities to ensure reduction in food loss, say the United Nations. And we also say the same as SAFC. Let us all take part in the situation where we save food. I would say if your dustbin has food in it, or each time you are throwing away or you are having your garbage collected, 25% of your garbage is food, then you are not doing something right. We need to change as well. And this is my call to all of us today, that we should actually change. Still on the International Day of Awareness of Food Loss and Waste, according to the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, reducing food loss is of significant importance as it contributes to the realization of broader improvements towards achieving food security, safety, and quality to deliver nutritional outcomes. And I would want to re-emphasize the point of nutrition. Right now, most of us are partaking in food that is zero nutrition, but we still buy it at very expensive prices. Food loss and waste. According to the United Nations, globally, around 14% of food produced is lost in harvest and retail, meaning as food is being harvested, we lose part of it. As it is being transported, we lose part of it. And when you go to the supermarkets, I happen to actually work for a food chain at some point. You'd find 14% of whatever food is ordered by most of the supermarkets is actually thrown away. It's not shared. They throw it away. And another significant quantity is wasted in retail to consumption level, meaning as we buy the food as consumers, what do we do with it? Do we consume all the food that we buy, or some of it we leave it in our fridges until the expiry date is reached and we'll throw it away? Overall, about 17% of the produced food is wasted one way or the another. As per United Nations estimates, around 11% is wasted in households, 5% in transportation, 2% in retail, and already we said the other part, the 14%, is wasted at harvest. This is alarming. More than 930 million tons of food sold in 2019 landed in the bins, according to the United Nations research that was released on 4 March 2021, when they were looking at efforts to support or efforts to halve food waste by 2030. I think the pictures that you see there speak to you and speak to what you do and what you may have done at one point. Throwing food into the dustbin because it's cold, because it doesn't taste as I thought it should. Therefore, I throw it into the dustbin in my kitchen. The second picture shows us at work. Those are the dustbins that we have. And finally, the last picture shows us the community that is throwing away food and wasting it. I mean, for sure. Climate facts. Just want to bring your attention to the fact that as we waste food, we also damage the environment. The food, the 14% that we are throwing away, or the 17% overall that we are throwing away, does not come without any effect on the environment. It does contribute to climate change. I just want to share with you the facts. There is an organization called IBTracks, which is a global organization which has been tracking data on in environmental or meteorological data from as far back as 1842 to the present. I want you to take note of the date 1842, in that from 1842 in South Indian Ocean, we never had a tropical cyclone that reached what is called category 5, which is the strongest type of a cyclone. And the first one to be recorded was in 1994. But take note of the following part. Following this late emergency in terms of the occurrence of tropical cyclones, between the period 1990 to 2000, in Southern Africa alone, we actually experienced 8 category 5 tropical cyclones. And a further 4 were recorded between 2010 and 2015, meaning what we were talking about as far as climate change is concerned is not something that is going to happen in the future. It is with us, and it is with us now. And that also has a direct impact on the food that we produce. And therefore, we should not waste, because our environment is no longer able to give us what we are looking for. Food is a key driver of climate change. And I'm actually saying those are the various forms of food that we sometimes waste. And when we waste them, we are going to experience 3 other things that we have on the right, starting from this one, that one, and that one. Wildfires, droughts, tropical cyclones. All of us is to care for the land, to care for the environment. Climate change affects production. And how does food contribute to climate change? I've listed here chemical fertilizers and heavy machineries, destruction of forests, and also generating climate damaging waste through the excess packaging. When we are packaging our food, when we are processing it, when we are refrigerating it, when we are transporting it, we are contributing to climate change. And therefore, when we waste food, as was indicated, that 930 million tons are thrown away, it also means we are damaging the environment for something that we don't really need, because we're throwing it away, but still we go on to damage the environment for something that we don't need. You would find these are the pictures that show us the kind of damage that we do when we clear the forests, when we practice agriculture, when we are processing in the factories, and when we have things in the landfill, when we throw it away. We are contributing to climate change because of the food that we are going to be wasting and not even going to use. That is maybe the percentage that food production contributes about 47% towards the greenhouse gas emissions. And with that, it also means part of that contribution has not been used by anybody, but we are claiming to be sharing communities. We should take care of the environment, and we should take care of each other. We need to remove these major sources of greenhouse gases. And how do we do that? So that we are able to share in our communities and reduce the losses that we have been talking about. Let's shift to the local market so that we have shorter circuits of food distribution, which will cut back on transportation and the need for packaging, processing, and refrigeration, of which at each of those stages, we also have food waste. We also have food losses, and we should actually guard against those. We also need to have a reintegration of crop and animal production to cut back on transportation and the use of chemicals such as the production of methane and nitrous oxide emissions. We should also stop clearing the land and deforestation and use what we call regenerative agriculture or agroecology to support the work that we will be doing. Thank you very much. That will be the end of my presentation. And my call to all of us today is we are supposed all the time make sure that at a household level, we stop wasting food. And at a household level, we guard against the loss of food. Meaning when you are refrigerating your food, when you are storing your food, ensure that it is stored in a manner that will make it last longer. And also check the expiry dates of your food on a day-to-day basis so that you're not going to throw away food. There is somebody who needs the food in the world today. Thank you.
Gabriel, thank you. That was an incredibly powerful presentation and really set such a powerful foundation for what we're going to be speaking about today. Thank you so much, Gabriel. I did see that somebody has asked in the chat about presentations being shared, and I think that we will be able to do that, and I will ask Chloe to take that piece on afterwards. But in the meantime, we're now going to speak to the people of faith that we have invited to tell us today, what does your faith say about sharing community? So our first speaker I'd like to introduce you to is Hajat Apwa Sabyala. She's an eminent woman of Uganda 2016, a member of Fleet Uganda, and popularly known as Mama Green or Mama Insurance. She is the initiator of Greening Fridays, working with Uganda Muslim Supreme Council to implement them annually since 2010. Hajat is an international climate champion with several green accolades to her name. She is the director, Energizing Solutions Limited, and she is the Africa Insurance Personality of the Year 2019 and 2020, as well as a Goodwill Ambassador for Women in Insurance in Africa. For the UK-based Chartered Insurance Institute, of which she is a chartered insurer. Hajat is a founding member of Uganda Faith Network on Environment Action, and we will share her website in the chat and obviously with her presentation, which I'm really looking forward to. Hajat, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for joining us today from Uganda.
Thank you very much, Reverend, for that great introduction. Allow me to share my presentation, if that is okay.
Yes, I think you should be able to share now.
Okay. Yes, this is my presentation and sharing community, a Muslim perspective, today, 30th September 2021. To you all participants, you're most welcome to this presentation. The roadmap, what we are going to follow in this presentation, we are going to look at Energizing Solutions. That is the company that is our company here. Sharing community, the Islamic perspective, and then our experience in community sharing, the women experiences, personal experiences, and then achievements and some advice at the end. Energizing Solution, as you see, that is a company. Our company here is into green works, but it is also into mentoring, pulling up people who are stuck, and all that, those other things that you see, we provide those solutions. We partner with Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, the apex body of Muslims in this country. The old adage, as it goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So I'm going to use so many pictures in this presentation so that they are able to deliver the message of sharing community. As you see here at our house, we are sharing with the young ones. That is Haji Sabyala, that is my husband, sharing community, happiness with the kids from the community who are at visiting our home. Sharing community, the definition in Islam is any charitable act aimed at helping the vulnerable people in society. And there is a Quranic quotation which is quoted there. And the picture you see there on the left is on Eid Day, sharing with the young ones. According to Islamic teachings, there are 5 pillars of Islam. The first pillar is Shahada. The second one is prayer. The third one is zakat. The fourth one is saum, that is the fasting. And the fifth one is pilgrimage, that is the hajj. But all these 5 pillars have an element of sharing community. So I would say that Islam is actually also about sharing community. As you see the sheikh there is sharing on a Friday, Greening Friday, the sermon with the congregation. There are, however, there are key Islamic ways of sharing community. And the first one is zakah. And we have 2 types of zakah. The first one is zakatul mal and zakatul fitr. Zakatul mal is compulsory payment, obligatory contribution, which you pay 2.5% from your income. And this is for Islamic causes and for the needy. And then zakatul fitr is paid at the end of Ramadan. So that's even the needy enjoy the Eid day. Then we have the second one, which is Eid Adha. We slaughter animals. And the meat is divided in 3 portions, shared with the needy, with the friends and relatives. And the third one, you keep at home. Then caring for environment is also a way of sharing community because of the sadaqatul jariyah. When you plant a tree and a bird or a person eats from the fruits or shelters, then there is the everlasting rewards. And then Ramadan, that is the 4th one. When we fast during Ramadan, we feel hunger and thirsty, so that everybody feels for the needy, and you are able to practice sharing community. Now, practically what happens? Practically, as you've seen the pictures, I said the pictures will speak for us. As ladies, we go to the mosque and we pray, and then we go home after those prayers, and we share with the young ones from the community the food. But the food is not wasted. We make sure that all is eaten. Duhia is the slaughtering of animals on Eid al-Adha. As you see, this is at our home. We slaughtered the animal. We gave away the 2/3. And the third that remained, we prepared at our home and invited those people to feast with us. Now, our caring for the environment under our company and the women in Gomba, we formed what is called a Greening Friday. Greening Friday is an annual day which is set aside. Can you mute others who are not speaking, please? Greening Friday is an annual day set aside by Uganda Muslim Supreme Council to celebrate and protect the environment through the Islamic teaching, the ayah and hadith. And this is held during the holy month of Ramadan on every 2nd Friday of the holy month of Ramadan since 2010. We have heard it. Can you please mute the people who are not speaking? It has a theme of speaking out, improving understanding, inspiring action for all communities. And it is held in Ramadan because during Ramadan, there are more rewards and there is more commitments. The practical way of Greening Friday and caring for environment, you see, we distribute truckloads of seedlings at the mosque, that is the Secretary General. Then we plant the trees around the mosque, fruit trees as sadaqatul jariyah. And then you see on Greening Friday, we are planting a tree with His Eminence, the Mufti. And then after 1 year, we go and check on the tree. We don't just plant, we go and check on the trees, how they are growing. The fruits, after the trees, after about 3-4 years, the trees, we start harvesting fruits. And we share the fruits as a way of sharing community, but also protecting the environment and also practicing sadaqatul jariyah. Greening Friday is such a day that is marked and it is in the calendar of the Supreme Council. So even during the lockdown, during COVID in 2020, when the mosques were closed, we had to mark it. You see the pictures. In 2019, there were so many people as you see them. In 2020, it was only myself and plants. Greening as a lifestyle His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, you see him with his hat, planting a tree when he visited us at the Uganda Muslim Supreme Council, and we are assisting him to do that.
Oh,
Even during the King's
okay.
birthday run,
I'm
even
sorry,
during
Hajjat. Would you mind just to hold there? I'm going to ask Joseph Perry, Joseph Christopher Perry. Please mute yourself,
Okay,
otherwise I'm afraid we're going to have
former
ask you to leave. Thank you. Thanks, Hajjat. Please continue.
Okay. Okay, so we do greening as a way of life. And when His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, visited the Supreme Council, you can see the sheikhs and I assisting His Excellency, the President, to plant a fruit tree. And that tree has grown and the fruits are already coming off. And then during the King's birthday run, this is a social activity for so many people. But then we do environment as part of the running, we sensitize with our trees. And then as a way of sharing community, as a way of life, even at weddings, we give green presents so that the brides go and plant them to remind of their wedding day, and also protect the environment, and also get Sadaqat Rijariya. Even at graduation ceremonies, as you see there, myself and the Sheikh, Director of Sharia, giving a graduate a green present as a way of sharing community. And even prisons. Now, we are planting a tree with the inmates in a Uganda prison. So there is a hadith, a teaching that anyone visiting the sick or inmates for the cause of Allah is rewarded. So here we are planting a tree, and that tree has also grown, and many others in the prisons. And every activity that we hold, there was the launch of Women in Insurance. We also share and give living presents as a way of protecting the environment. Even when His Eminence Mufti Mek visited Uganda, you can see the tree that we are sharing with him. Now, sharing living presents with all communities of status and religion. The ambassador of the US is here sharing a tree with the US ambassador to Uganda, but also on the other side, the ambassador of the Pope. This is a Catholic and I'm a Muslim, but it doesn't matter because the environment does not climate change. The effects do not discriminate between this religion or that religion. So sharing community, as you see there, is practiced. With students, the young ones, one of my staff is teaching the Kampala Academy 2018 and 2019. I'm teaching a secondary school how to nurture what they have planted as a way of caring for the environment and Sadaqat Rijariya and sharing community. And then mainstreaming, we have menstrual hygiene management as one of the products that we do. But as we share the sanitary parts, we also embed protection of the environment. You see the ladies on the left, and then the sheikhs are also supporting them with the trees and the sensitization. And then they go on to sensitize the communities in their respective mosques. And here sharing community again, menstrual hygiene management. You can say a police officer is receiving a sanitary pad from one of us. And then the school children are also there waiting for their turn after they've been sensitized, and they will receive sanitary pads, but these are reusable. So they are friendly to the environment. You don't have to dispose every time. Then Gomba Women Environment Protection and Development Group, you can see the activities that we do. We mulch, we practice Islamic farming, we do climate smart agriculture, tree planting, and chicken rearing. So we share our community to ensure good food security and the economic sustainability. You can see the activities there for the ladies. As I said, our pictures speak. You see the chicken rearing, and you see the mulching for moisture retention, so that throughout the year they are using their land for food security and sustainability. The products of the Gomba Women group, you can see the products are very, very many. Most of them are so green and environmentally friendly. And then we take them to outside Uganda. And here we are in Bahrain, in Manama, in the biggest garden show. It's called the Bahrain International Garden Show. In 2015, we were showcasing the products of the Gomba women. Personal experience during Eid, during Ramadan, we buy foodstuffs and we give them to the needy children so that they are able also to practice and be able to fast. You can see the children there, they have received, and others had already left. We organize during our caring and sharing community. We do line up with the young ones so that we share properly without wasting any food, as has been sensitized to us this morning. Other examples of sharing community, you can see it there, even outside the gate, people sit and eat. And then cassava that we have planted in our gardens, we share it with the people. Those are different cassava that we are going to share with the people, the cars, you see them there. What are the achievements of our sharing community as energizing solutions, as also as an individual? We have got our idea of Greening Fridays. It was gazetted in the Muslim Spring calendar as the second Friday of every holy month of Ramadan. That's a big achievement. We have planted so many trees with different people of different categories. As a Dakar area, we have distributed about 2,500 trees. We have had partnerships. We have empowered women economically. We have also received international attention, and we are also making international presentations like this one that I'm making this morning. What you see in the picture there is the Muslim Achiever of the Year Awards, which I received, and with my team there because of our work, green work, and the sharing community. What challenges and advice as I come to the end of my presentation? We have one key challenge that as we do sharing community, at times we get demands that exceeds capacity, but we continue building capacity so that we are able to meet the demands for all the people so that we do excellent sharing community. As a way forward, I advise all of you, number one, to continue building bridges through sharing community and environmental protection. My advice number two is for all to embrace sharing community as a concept and as a way of life. It is so fulfilling. Finally, I thank you all and may God bless you. That is my website. You can visit it and know more about our activities. That was at Sheraton Hotel. They were celebrating 50 years. This is an international hotel, but they invited us to showcase what we do, and we shared the trees in a hotel, which is not usual. So I thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. I request you to plant a tree today and the day after today and every month so that we continue protecting the environment and also embracing and sharing community. Thank you very much. That brings me to the end of my presentation, Reverend.
Hajat Sebiala, you are amazing. I've been watching the comments in the chat and I realize how you have really spoken to the hearts of everybody here and you have inspired people. So that's really beautiful. Thank you for an excellent presentation. I did put your website into the chat as well for anybody who'd like to see and support and learn more from you. Thank you so much.
You are most welcome. Can I stop sharing?
Please do. Please stop sharing now because we're going to move on to our next speaker. And I'm so thrilled that we are running on time. And our next speaker is going to bring us the Christian perspective on sharing community. So Joseph Tutu Mandadi, but we call him Tutu because that is his nickname. It is what everybody refers to him as. And he is passionate of knowledge, science, and ministry. Joseph Mundadi is a religious leader with an honors degree in theology and aggregation of teaching from the DRC. He obtained a master's degree in rural development in 2017 in South Africa, and that same year, he presented a paper at the 3rd International Conference on Global Food Security at the Cape Town International Conference Center on engaging religious leaders in wasted food, implications on sustainable food security in selected rural communities of Tulamela municipality in South Africa. So very relevant stuff for us today. Joseph served as a research assistant for a year at the Wits Center for Health Policy, School of Public Health, University of Witwatersrand, and he has completed short courses with the United Nations on cities and climate change, children and climate change, human health and climate change, reducing emissions from deforestation and forest degradation, and many others. Joseph has initiated and coordinated many projects, such as the Greening and Save the Planet project between 2011 and 2013 under the Lichani Varnavade Foundation, a local NPO based in Tohoyandu, where he coordinated a group of grassroots community-based organizations with the support of the Faith Secretariat of the Diaconia Council of Churches to attend the COP17 in Durban. And so currently, Joseph is part of SAFC through the Faith Leader Environmental Advocacy Training, FLEET, and he is currently working towards his doctoral degree at Wits University in Johannesburg. Joseph, welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here. And I know that the subject inspired you. We're looking forward to your presentation. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much, Reverend Berry.
Thank you,
Am
Joseph.
I audible enough?
You are audible. Would you like to share your screen? I just want to tell our group. I just want to tell our group that Joseph is keeping his video off because he had some internet instability this morning. But we are just thrilled that he is here. So, Joseph, would you like to share your screen?
Yes. I'm trying to share my screen.
So, is there something we need to do to assist there?
Hi, Rev Berry. He should be able to share his screen.
Okay, super. Thank you, Joseph. Are you ready for us? Can you manage that? There you go.
Are you able to see?
We can see your screen. Thank you, sir. Off you go.
You can view. You can see.
I can see your screen and I can hear you clearly. That's wonderful.
Okay. That is my outline of the presentation. I don't want to dwell much on that. These are some of the key definitions that I don't want also to discuss more, but the problem is we are discussing about food waste. The topic is food waste reduction and faith leaders during the COVID-19. Food waste here, according to these presentations, refer to any appropriate food that's supposed to benefit human beings, but the food is discarded because of the behavior issues that as human beings we are having. And then sharing community here will refer to sustainable consumption practices of compassion, love, and charity within the community. Why faith leader? The first thing is that faith leaders are representative and ambassadors of the Almighty God on earth. And then faith leaders are at the front lines of illuminations, which means knowledge, and they are also in front lines of awareness, empowerment, and behavior change within the community where they are leading. Faith leaders, they have potential to educate children, youth, women, and men on food waste and its impact during the COVID-19. Also, they can influence behavior change and decisions making wherever they are operating or living. the faith leaders are well placed to contribute to national development efforts. And then, according to the Bible, the Quran, and the Torah, which is also the holy books, because these three religions are the monotheistic religions with one father, which is Abraham, the father of our faith. So the objective of this presentation is to empower and motivate all the faith leaders in order to facilitate interventions to reduce food wastage by promoting sharing for sustainable food security in Southern Africa and the whole continent at large. As a country considered food secure when all its people have physical, social, and economic access to sufficient and safe, nutritious food, that according to the Food Agriculture Organization. Food is a potential important factor in efforts to combat hunger and improve food security amongst the poor and developing countries. Internationally, food waste is seen as a global issue in terms of food security and food system sustainability. So, according to global research, about 1/3 of the food which is produced globally is wasted because of human behavior and also supply chain issues. So stakeholders are considered as key to reduce food loss and waste in order to promote food security amongst all and bring change. So ethically, to waste food that could be used for feeding people, it's not good, because it's a kind of a behavior that display greedy amongst the people. So reason being, almost 868 million of the people globally are undernourished, and about 2 billion of the people are suffering from negative health issues because of obesity and also lack of nutrients in the food. So the issue of food loss and food waste is of high importance, especially in the effort to combat hunger and improve food security with regards to religious leaders, especially in our Christian faith. So in South Africa, about 12 million of people go to bed hungry. This is a reality of South Africa that we're living in, while many people are wasting food every day, but they are forgetting about the 12 million of people that are going to sleep without having food. So food security, food waste is a priority for food security and food sovereignty in the community. And then working together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goal 12, it's of great importance, especially for us faith leaders. Setting the context, the recommendation from our Master, Jesus Christ, is from John 6:12. When he multiplied the food, he gave to the 2,000 of the people, feeding them. After feeding them, they ate. After eating, he said this. He said, "Gather up the leftover fragments that nothing may be lost." So this is a recommendation from Jesus Christ, who told us that we should not lose or waste any kind of food. We must gather them and share with other people wherever we are living. So despite the triple challenge that's facing South Africa, we have poverty, unemployment, and inequality. We find that people are still wasting food without thinking about those who are unemployed and those that are poor. So elimination of food waste and food loss is very important, because it was launched also at the UN by the former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon as part of the challenge of eliminating hunger. The significance on food security and economy and environmental sustainability continue making it a permanent universal problem with regard to food waste. However, food waste can be reduced during the COVID-19 with the influence of faith leaders using behavior change and communication. So due to the current environmental crisis, sustainable consumption behavior and its driver has gained significant attention. Reason why all of us as religious leaders or faith leaders, we should lead by the way of consuming responsibly and also sharing with others. Over 9 million of tons of food waste is generated every year in South Africa, while more than 820 million people do not have enough food to eat. Food is being wasted in our houses as faith leaders, in our faith communities as leaders, and also during gatherings. And more increase during the COVID-19 as shows that during the lockdown, many people are continuing to waste food. So food is very important because there's more demand for food and other essential as water, such as water and electricity. Also, food waste is increasing the carbon footprint and global warming. And also, we have drought due to food loss or food waste. So the issue and dimension of food waste, reduction is required as part of our commitment as first leaders, as key stakeholders as well for sustainable food security. So the generation of it will bring triple win, because if we reduce food waste, we are going to contribute economically because we're gonna save the billions that are going for the food that is wastage. Also, we will contribute to food security, and also we will contribute to environmental sustainability. So the dimension of food waste, we have the first one is a religious dimension, whereby it's ethically for each and everyone who is a man of faith or a woman of faith to contribute to this dimension, because food as a gift of God has a religious meaning. Also, another dimension is a development one, because the more we are reducing food waste, we are contributing to food security. Another dimension is economical dimension. We have an environmental dimension, a social one, and a safety and security. Safety and security, because if in our community we have people who don't have food enough, so those people, they will become a threat of our security, because they will end up maybe causing chaos or committing crime or robbery in the community. So that's why we are encouraged to share food with our community in order to have a safe and a secure community for all. Food waste and COVID-19. COVID-19 has significantly impacted the life of the people, because during the lockdown, those who were able to afford, they were buying enough food because they were afraid that the lockdown, we didn't know what will happen in the future. So the more they were buying food, the more the food that they were buying was also rotting, because they will put food in the fridge or freezer, but after a few days, some food can still rot even if it's in the fridge or freezer. Also, the COVID-19 transformed the way people were used to live. During the COVID-19, we realized that some of the people have changed their behavior, although Christians or Muslim or Jewish people, we started to change the behavior. We could not share with the people because everybody was afraid that no, we don't know how the lockdown will be. I don't know about this, and then I can't share because this is the little food that I'm still having. So behavior change it's very important. It's very important because we don't have to fear about the future. As long as we believe in God, whatever we have, even if it's too little, we still have to share it with others as Christians. So during the lockdown also, we realized that the study that we have done, many households contributed to food waste during the lockdown. So COVID-19 has impacted on hunger and food insecurity. So as faith leaders, we should stand in solidarity during this time with much compassion in response to COVID-19. And also we should raise our voices to be more vocal on these issues and contribute to the greater good of humanity. Sharing community and faith leaders, there is a strong link between us as faith leaders and food waste, because food is a gift from God, as I mentioned it. Food has a cultural and religious dimension, as it can define affiliation of groups and society. And also food plays a crucial role in development. So the Ecumenical Advocacy Alliance of the World Council of Churches also encourage Christians to promote food justice, to address the issue of food waste, and also to for everyone to examine their consumption pattern. How much, what quantity of food are you eating each and every day? So why sharing community? Because by sharing community, we are going to solve the current crisis of people and the planet. We should bring community closer together and bring social benefits that reduce our environmental impact and inequality and greediness. So sharing community, because it will help us to limit human unsustainable consumption. Also, it will help us to provide equal access to the goods and services we need for a decent life for all. So there's a pictorial view quickly there of sharing community. Why I put these pictures like this, it's because I wanted to explain the linking between faith leaders, food waste, and sharing community. At the center there, you can see that it's a picture of a joint meeting of faith leaders. On the left there, you will see there is a plate of food which someone was eating. After eating, the person could not finish and then throw in the dustbin, also on the right side there. But down there, you can see below the faith leaders, you will see a dustbin, which is the dustbin that we're having in our homes as a faith leaders. We are filling the dustbin with food. You can see there inside, there's banana, there's fruit, there's vegetables. So why are we filling our dustbin as faith leader with much food, whereas our neighbors are in need of food? So the sharing community is requesting that on the right down there, there is a bucket, a box full of food, which is written donation. And also on the left side, there is a group of women cooking for the vulnerable children. So down there, you can see that there is a mother there who's trying to breastfeed her child, but she doesn't have food. Down there again, there's a group of children who are standing on the queue for going for a food donation charity, but there's no food, and then the food is finished. So while us as faith leaders, we are becoming like politicians, standing in front of people, speaking preaching the word of God, but inside we are not doing what the gospel is telling us to do. So we should lead by example as faith leaders in order to help those who are in need. Donate the food that we know that it will expire. The bread that is always expiring in your house, we should donate it. So take home message: food is a gift from God, and we should treat it with a more ethical consideration, and then we should not waste the food. Religion is considered as an important element that drives human development. We should always consider our human behavior, not to waste food. God commanded us not to waste anything. Our holy books that we've mentioned, the Bible and the Quran, are against the wastage of food. So food reduction will contribute toward the reduction of carbon footprint, and then local solutions are needed, especially like conserving food in an indigenous way. We can dry our vegetables, we can dry our fruit so that we can eat it in the future. Conclusion: food loss and waste matters for everyone, for the economy, for food security. And then also faith leaders are encouraged to lead by example with their faith and try to implement the following activity as proposed by the presenter. It's the firstly is, as religious leaders, we should have food waste diary, whereby we have to note all the quantity of food that we are buying and how much quantity are we wasting. We can also organize food waste reflection cycle. We can also organize faith leaders sustainable consumption workshops. We can also host food waste behavior change seminars. We can also have stakeholders food waste reduction seminars in our congregation, in our community, as part of the Green Action Week. So our common goals, we should have an inclusive well-being and a better life for everyone, and we should embrace sharing in order to build bridges, not walls and fences in our community. So thank you very much. Ngiyabonga Ndolibua, bye dankie.
Baie dankie, meneer, and thank you so much. Muito obrigado, and all the other ngiyabonga, all the other languages that you have put there, Joseph. And thank you for that encouragement to actually really take action during Green Action Week. And what my takeaway from your, you can stop sharing screen now if you like. My takeaway from your presentation is that verse is really stuck in my head. Gather up the leftover fragments that nothing may be lost. That is truly wise advice, and also to lead by example. As faith leaders, that's what we need to be doing, leading by example. Thank you so much, Joseph. I want to just tell our participants that we will have an opportunity to ask some questions. So if you have any questions of the previous two speakers, please put them in the chat, unless you want to hold on to them until after our final speaker has presented. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our final speaker, who's going to bring us the Jewish perspective on sharing community. And that was something that I felt we could absolutely not leave out on this particular topic, because the Jewish community is all about sharing community. Rabbi Emma Gottlieb of Temple Israel in Cape Town was ordained from the Hebrew Union College at the Jewish Institute of Religion, New York campus in May of 2010. She was born and raised in Toronto, Canada, and has served as rabbi in Plattsburgh, New York, and Canton, Massachusetts, as well as in her hometown. Prior to her rabbinic studies, Rabbi Gottlieb earned a dual bachelor's degree in religious studies and vocal music, and she holds a master's degree in Hebrew letters as well. Her rabbinic thesis was focused on the doctrine of resurrection and how it is used and thought about in the Jewish liturgy of the Reform and Progressive movements. Rabbi Gottlieb is thrilled to now be living and working in Cape Town at Temple Israel. She is a member of the South African Association of Progressive Rabbis, as well as the Central Conference of American Rabbis and the Women's Rabbinic Network. Rabbi Emma is passionate about creating opportunities for Jewish engagement and teaching about how Judaism can bring meaning to our everyday lives. So, Rabbi Emma, it is a joy and a privilege to welcome you, and thank you so much. I do see that somebody has a hand up. Perhaps I should just find out from Ahia, is that okay, you want us to share presentations? We will be sharing presentations, Ahia. So thank you for your question. And if that answers the question, then I will, wait, I'm just hearing a voice. I'm hearing a voice.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to ask a question. Yeah, my question goes to Mr. Gabriel according to his presentation. Like the way he said that food waste and other processes of food productions contribute to climate change. These processes in his concepts included issues like deforestation for agriculture, food waste, effects like production of greenhouse gases, and other issues that also contribute to climate change. So my question is like, what suggestions or recommendations can we take from him on how we can still making sure that we reduce food waste, improve food production and consumption sustainably, and conserve the climate as well? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ahir. Those are very big questions right there. I have noted your questions, and I'm going to ask you to be a little bit patient with us so that at the end of our next speaker, we can have a general discussion and we can bring your questions, and that'll be the first question that we deal with. Gabriel, are you happy with that? Okay, you're smiling at me and you have a thumbs up. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ahir. And if you can be patient with us, we will get to the questions after our next speaker. Rabbi Emma, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Reverend Bear. It is wonderful to be here. So I'm looking forward to sharing with all of you about Judaism and how we share community. So just make that, there we go. So you'll see right away from the photo that, or the image that I've used here, and the title, One People, Many People, that even though the Jewish people see ourselves as one community, we are a very diverse community. So Jewish people can be found all over the world. We all look very different from one another. We have lots of us are married to people who aren't Jewish and have family members who aren't Jewish. And so we are one people, but we are also many people. And so I'm going to speak about myself and my Jewish community. But the Jewish world is very diverse. So I don't necessarily represent all Jews or all Jewish perspectives. And I just want to own that up front. So there are three sort of foundational ideas in Judaism that we believe that the world is built upon these three things. So one is Torah, which is learning. One is Avodah, which is prayer. And one is Gimilut Chasadim, which means acts of loving kindness. So good deeds, taking care of one another. And each of these has a connection to community and to sharing community. So with Torah, with learning, which is a very high value for our people, it is something that we do together. Learning is done in community. So we have a concept called chavruta, which is from the Aramaic word that means friendship or companionship. And it's the traditional Jewish approach to Torah study, where groups of students study and analyze and discuss and debate together. And it's very different than some of the other models of learning that are sort of more teacher-student driven, where the teacher is teaching and the student is just receiving. With Chavruta study, it's a more equal two-way relationship of study. And we're able to learn from one another, from our own, from one another's perspectives and experiences and questions. So when we study alone, we really can only draw upon our own perspective, our own experiences, and our own knowledge. But when we study in community, then we're able to also learn from the texts of one another's lives. It is through study of Torah that we come to understand so many of the concepts from a Jewish perspective that we've been talking about today. So the Torah is filled with laws about taking care of our planet, taking care of animals, taking care of how we grow things in sustainable ways, crop rotations, protection of fruit trees in times of war, all different kinds of ways of thinking about sustainability and care of the earth as part of our religious obligation and part of our partnership with God, all are embedded in Torah. And are really ancient ideas that go back a long time. These are not new concepts. They're not new responsibilities for us. We find them in our oldest text when we study together. Avodah, which again is prayer, also happens in communities. So we pray together as a community. We have a concept called minyan, which means that in order for us to pray as a community, there have to be at least 10 Jewish people that come together, and they have to be over the age of 13, having marked their entry into Jewish adulthood. And when we don't have a minyan, if we have less than 10 people praying together, there are certain prayers that we can't say. And those include not being able to publicly read from the Torah, not being able to have the prayer that's recited by mourners, as well as the call to prayer. And so it's really an important concept in how we share community, that we're not able to pray or to celebrate or to mourn unless we show up for one another. So we have to show up in community in order to be able to pray and to have the rituals and to speak the words that we're meant to be saying. So sharing community takes place in study, and it takes place in prayer, and it takes place in doing acts of good in the world together. Gemilut Chasadim. We have a concept called Tikkun Olam, where we hold that each person is meant to participate in making the world a better place and a more just place. And of course that can be done individually, but in most Jewish communities, it's also a big part of how we share community, that we do acts of good together. And sometimes those are acts, social activism, lobbying, marching, protesting, and sometimes they're acts of charity, collecting and donating, giving tzedakah, which is very similar to the word that we learned about in the presentation from our Muslim faith sister. So there's social justice activism and direct giving, charity. We also do a lot of projects in environmentalism and ecology. So we have gardening projects, working with low-income communities that to help them create gardens to provide food for themselves, and cleanup, beach cleanups, and cleaning up our neighborhoods, and all sorts of things like that. So all of those kinds of projects are a big part of the Jewish community as well, and part of how we share community, not just within our own communities, but making sure that we are active and engaged in the world around us and participating in Tikkun Olam on all levels, on the local level, on the wider communal level, on the global level. We have a concept in Jewish tradition, a text that teaches this phrase, Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh, which means, it comes from the Aramaic, and it means all Israel is responsible for one another. And this is the idea that we are meant to be taking care of one another, that we are obligated to step in and help to stop someone from hurting themselves, from hurting someone else, from sinning, but also more broadly, it gives us the obligation just to take care of one another and to make sure that others have their basic needs met, food and clothing and shelter. And so we start at home with this idea that we're responsible for one another. But when we live in the world, we know that we can't only be responsible for our own people, that we also have to be responsible for all of the people who touch our lives, for all of the people whom we share broader community with. And so this idea of Kol Yisrael Aravim Zeh Lezeh starts at home, but it builds outward and impacts the way that we think about caring for others, and making sure that it's not just our own community that has food and clothing and shelter, but that all people have access to food and clothing and shelter. And one of the ways that the Torah teaches us how to do this is through a law called Peah, which back in the days when we were mostly an agricultural people, the Torah taught us not to harvest the corners of our fields, and not to gather any of the fallen gleanings of the harvest. So if you're gathering in your grain and you drop some, you're supposed to leave it on the ground. You're not supposed to pick it back up. And the corners of the field and the leftover gleanings are to be left for those who are less fortunate, for the poor, or for those who don't have a way to produce food for themselves. So the orphan, the widow, anyone who is economically disadvantaged would be able to come and pick up in the field what was left behind and gather from the corners. And even though on the whole, the Jewish people isn't really an agricultural people anymore, we extrapolate from this law the obligation to provide for the needy and to make sure that there's always a portion of what we have that we give to others, that we're always thinking about, what is the symbolism, what is the metaphor of the corners of our field. So that might be a percentage of our income. It might be that, for every time we buy food for ourselves, we give food to someone else. It might be, making sure that we are always giving to different charities. So this idea of the corners of our field stays with us, even though we're not really farmers anymore. There are many other characteristics of Jewish community that show up and that impact the way that we live in the world, and also the way that we think about and participate in all of these beautiful things that we've been talking about today with food sustainability and climate activism. So one thing that one marker of Jewish community is distinction. So thinking about the differences between sacred and everyday, marking time and marking space, and differentiating between different moments in our lives, and that plays into these conversations that we're having today, in that often there are certain times of year, certain moments in our lives, or certain spaces maybe that we find ourselves in, where we feel more called to, or particularly called to in those moments or in those spaces, to participating in Tikkun Olam, in repairing the world, and in greening projects and food, hunger related projects and all those things. So they might get tied into how we celebrate a particular festival or a momentous occasion in our lives. So our students, when they have their coming of age ceremonies, they do a mitzvah project. A mitzvah means a good deed or a commandment. They do a mitzvah project to mark that they are now more responsible in the world. And so often they are doing projects relating to climate activism, or cleaning up the community, or providing for those less fortunate. So those moments of distinction are an invitation to us to get involved in the world. Another marker of Jewish community is teshuvah, which is about reflecting on what we could do better and asking for forgiveness, which also we do both individually and as a community. Especially once a year we come together. We just had Yom Kippur, where we came together to confess our individual and communal sins and to ask for forgiveness from one another and from God. And again, when we do teshuvah and we're thinking about being how we can be better people, often those lead us to conversations about the kinds of work that we are all talking about today as brothers and sisters in faith. That part of self-betterment is deepening our engagement in making the world a better place. And so all of that plays into teshuvah as well. We see all people as being created in the image of God, which is in Hebrew is B'Tselem Elohim, in the image of God. And so we believe it's very important to treat everyone with dignity, and to make sure that everyone is able to have opportunities to live a life of dignity. So that plays into making sure that people have access to food, access to education, access to shelter, a clean place to live, that they're able to better themselves and their community. So empowerment and upliftment. So all different kinds of political, charitable, and volunteer activities that come as part of sharing community around ensuring the dignity of others. Saving a life is one of our communal values, pikuach nefesh, and so prioritizing health and safety at all times, and for ourselves and also for others. So again, that's going to play into climate change, making sure that our world is a safe place, and helping people to live safe and healthy lives. And finally, keeping the peace, shalom. Shalom bayit means peace in the home. And so always working as individuals and as community to have peace between us and peace with our friends and our neighbors. And that's part of why we participate in opportunities such as this, to make sure that we are always offering peace and welcoming peace and working together with other people in throughout the world to create peace and harmony and a better world. So in all of those ways, we are sharing community, and it's such a privilege to be here with all of you today and to be able to share this with you. Thank you.
Rabbi Emma, thank you so much. I love the couple of lines that I just picked up from you, and one of them was, all of Israel are responsible for one another. I just love that line. It just really encapsulates everything. And then, of course, we give ourselves and others opportunity to change, and that just also speaks into the adaptive change that we do need at these times in order to continue to care for one another. And how do we do that with this? So thank you so much for that wonderful input. Very inspiring. I see there's a comment in the chat that that was so inspiring. So thank you. I know that we are going to hear from Kulekani shortly. Kulekani is going to be giving us a bit of an update about SAFC's particular way of sharing community, which is about engaging in eco-advocacy, because the environment, the world, and the well-being of our planet is something that feeds into the well-being of all of us. But I do want to just give a few moments for questions right now. And Ahia's question, let's start with that. So Ahia's question was around, what are some suggestions and recommendations to ensure reducing waste and improving production? And Gabriel, are you ready to take that question? And if any of the rest of you have any questions, please put them in the chat if you're in the room, and let us know what you'd like to know a little bit more about. So Gabriel.
Thank you, Rev Perry, and thank you, Ahia, for that question. The suggestion that I have, I'll start off from the kitchen. I think it is important for us to have our small gardens at the back of our homes for those that can. It helps that you are only going to get what you need and use it. And you are not going to actually be storing a lot of fresh vegetables and fruits. For those that can also, as was pointed out earlier on by Hajat, let's do plant trees and let's plant fruit trees so that we can also get fresh fruit direct from the trees that we have, and also even to have community fruit trees where we can walk and get our fruits when they are due without having to keep them in the fridges where they get damaged. The waste that we were talking about mainly occurs in transit, in storage, and during processing. If we cut out that long chain, supply chain, it means we are going to be getting our food locally. And it also means we're not going to be having trucks traveling maybe from South Africa all the way to Malawi just to deliver oranges, when people in Malawi can grow the oranges in their backyards and in their communities and have the oranges without having trucks traveling all the way and spewing out carbon gases all the way. It also takes away the issue of refrigeration when we have fruits that are produced locally. When trucks are transporting food, they have to keep the refrigerators running, and that refrigeration also produces greenhouse gases. So it contributes directly towards climate change. The other component that you also mentioned in terms of the clearing of the land, agroecological practices would minimize the clearing of land, and only the part or the piece of land that needs to produce food is the one that is going to be cleared. And in some instances, we can even keep some of the trees within the cleared area as well, which means we'd have a greater carbon sink when we have as many trees as is practically possible. And that is also one thing that I would encourage all of us when we have our different gardens. We need not clear all the trees. We can leave some of the trees that are actually compatible with the growing of crops around you, so that we have the greatest possible carbon sink in the world. And these are some of the things that I would actually urge. And as SAFC, we have written a letter to the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to say we would want them to support smallholder farmers and not industrial farming, which we believe is greatly responsible for the 47% of the greenhouse gas emissions that we mentioned earlier on. If we go towards agroecology, we'll be better able to maintain a healthy environment where fertilizers are not used, where we have, and that is inorganic fertilizer being used, and we will also not have the chemicals used that are not friendly to the biodiversity. And I just remembered that today on the 30th of September, we actually have a biodiversity summit at the United Nations, which is actually looking at how all other activities are affecting biodiversity. Thank you very much, Perry.
Thank you so much, Gabriel. That was a really comprehensive response, and I hope that, and I trust that you have found good information there. I see that Hussein has put in the chat, some faith leaders say that whether we live sustainably or not, the climate change will be there, because whatever we are experiencing right now, it just signals end time. How best can we convince them that they are part and parcel in as far as climate change is concerned? How, would any of our speakers like to address that?
Sorry, what is the question again?
Okay, so let me just put this, I'm trying to keep, it keeps jumping. Some faith leaders say that whether we live sustainably or not, the climate change will be there, because wherever we are, whether we live sustainably or not, but whatever we are experiencing right now, it just signals end time. How best can we convince them, the faith leaders, that they are part and parcel in as far as climate change is concerned? So how do we convince our faith leaders that not only are they part of the problem, they can also be part of the solution? Would any of our faith leaders like to answer that? Otherwise, I'll pass that to Gabriel if none of you are wanting to pick that up. Okay, Gabriel, would you like to?
Can I share something?
Joseph, yes, of course you can. I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, what I can say is, as faith leaders, we should understand one thing. That's why we are seeing many people behaving in a negative way, because most of the faith leaders are not well trained. So as we are standing, the climate change has impacted negatively to the planet. But for us, we have to play our part and live ethically. What we have to do is we have to stop doing the things like everyone We should do things differently. That's why we are leaders of faith. We are leading people. We are telling them to do the right things, not the wrong things. Although we will not reduce all the green gas emissions, but our behavior, our attitude toward it will help to reduce the emissions from our villages, our communities, our cities, our regions. As time goes on, we cannot reduce the all green gas emissions because the impact of the industries is already damaging the planet. But we have to play our part according to what our holy books are saying and what other stakeholders are saying about climate change and also reducing the green gas emissions. We cannot live like everyone saying that we are having the I don't care attitude. Even if I don't reduce, even if I don't do this, the climate change will be there. No, we have to change our mindset. Thank you.
Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate that. And also, I really appreciate Rabbi Emma's comment, which she has put in the chat, that we need to focus on making change in our own communities and being an example for others to follow. And we can also try to offer as much education as possible. And that, of course, is really key, isn't it? So thank you so much, Rabbi Emma, for that. I'm going to take the last two hands, Hajat and Sidrek, and then we're going to have to move on because otherwise we're going to run out of time. So Hajat first, and then Sidrek.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a very interesting question. However, if the religious leaders follow the teachings in their holy books, they should be able really to know that protection of the environment is a continuous process. And we have a hadith, a teaching in Islam, which says even on doomsday, like, you know, when it is doomsday, if you have a palm in your hand, please plant it. So it is like that's whoever is saying that they are not following the teachings of their books, holy books. That's all I can say. That all holy books have teachings on how to protect the environment, how we are just stewards. We have to leave it a better place than we found it. And if we know that we are keeping in trust whatever we have, and you have to keep it and leave it in a better state than we found it, then all of us, should be able to protect the environment and do whatever activity it takes to make sure that we do that. I thank you very much, Reverend.
Thank you, Hajat. I appreciate that as well. And yes, you're quite right. And Rabbi Emma has just reminded us in the chat that in Judaism, if you are planting a tree and the Messiah arrives, you must first finish planting it before you go to greet the Messiah. Isn't that amazing? That's such an incredible thought to ponder. So, and what I see, Sidrek, that you have taken your hand down. Do you still want to say something, or is there something, or have you? Okay, I don't see Sidrek's hand anymore. So I will move on then. But thank you so much for that rich and interesting input. And yes, Rabbi Emma, that's a really rich comment to round our discussion off with. Lots of food for thought right there. So I'm going to move over now to my colleague, Khulekani Magwaza, who is our climate and energy justice coordinator. Have I got that right, Khulekani? I sometimes lose the last few words of that. And Khulekani is going to tell us a little bit about what SAFC is doing and regarding the nuclear situation, and that's something that is also very much something that will affect our communities and will affect all of us. So Khulekani, over to you for a very quick update from you, please.
Thank you very much, Reverend Perry. Greetings, everybody, and greetings especially to our speakers and all faith leaders. I hope everyone is still okay. And yes, I'm Khulekani Magwaza, the Energy and Climate Justice Coordinator at SAFC. I'm happy to be explaining to you about our nuclear-free campaign. So our nuclear-free campaign is about building a resilient community of faith leaders who are representing a large constituency of our society's population. Many of our communities are facing various kinds of climate change impact, as our colleagues have said, and one of them is energy poverty. Energy poverty being energy poor, and being energy poor refers to many of our rural communities and villages having no electricity at all. And most of those are largely faith people. It also refers to the issues of safety and affordability. Although we may be provided with electricity somehow in many of our communities, we don't have to be at risk for our lives. And although we may be desperate to have electricity, it does not mean that we have to pay more, and it does not mean that electricity have to be expensive. And so our nuclear free SA campaign stresses two issues, and that is the issue of safety and the issue of affordability. This campaign is a continuous work of our organization as SAFC, Southern African Faith Communities Environment Institute. And it is a movement building based on mobilization, advocacy, and accompaniment, and awareness raising and capacity building on climate change and energy issues. When you look at the climate change issue as a subject, it could be a bit complex, but we are navigating it through focusing on three topics: climate justice, energy justice, and just transition. This is how we define these three topics. One, we understand climate justice as an ethical and political issue. It links climate policies to human rights and sustainable development. It safeguards the right of the most vulnerable people and the sharing of burdens and benefits of climate policies equally and fairly. Communities that are disproportionately affected by climate change and energy injustice are mostly faith people. The specific competencies of vulnerable conditions of faith people are often overlooked. Climate justice in this context is an approach to address and close these gaps by ensuring that equity, equality, and full and equal meaningful participation of faith communities in climate justice processes is at the heart of all discussions. Number two, in the context of climate justice, energy justice refers to a fair accessibility to energy and affordability and safety of energy systems with the aim of protecting the environment and the people, especially those most affected. The faith leaders play an important role in the fight for energy justice. Faith leaders such as yourselves have a mandate to speak out as a prophetic voice against any injustices. And your role includes announcing with a powerful voice and with a powerful faith voice what is necessary and what is not necessary to better our society and to transform our society. And that is why the faith leaders play an important role in this campaign. Number three, we understand just transition as a human rights-based approach, and it is to address the impact of climate change. Our various faiths motivate us to advocate for a fulfillment of the human rights obligations with regards to the respect of and for the protection of human standards and human rights principles. We believe that just transition should be based on 8 specific principles. Number one, it's the climate justice, social justice, ecological centric living, participatory democracy, socialized ownership of properties, international solidarity, decoloniality, and intergenerational justice. We understand just transition also as a process of reconciling with the process of reconciling our relationship with God's creation. Our faith teach us that that the Mother Earth is a living being. She is very unique indivisible, self-understanding community of interrelated beings that sustains, contains, and reproduces all beings. Each being is defined by its relationship with an integral part of Mother Earth. We must commit to new ways of living that honor the dynamic relationships between all forms of life and to deepen awareness in the spiritual dimension of our lives in the process of the just transition. We must draw on the courage, the hope and wisdom and spiritual reflection to enable our young and future generations to inherit a more caring and sustainable world that we are praying for. And that is what our nuclear-free campaign is all about. Last remarks would be that I would like to appreciate everyone and all faith leaders who have been involved in this campaign since the inception in 2016 and 2017. And especially when we won the case against the government on this issue of nuclear. And I appreciate everyone who has been involved in the previous years, also for various actions that we have been undertaking. And more especially, I would like to appreciate all faith leaders who were with us in person last week in our action here in Cape Town. And so in last week here in Cape Town, we were doing an action against, it was not against, but our action was about sending a message to the government that we need the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy to uproot any corruption and poor decisions in the energy sector, and that we need them to hold the executive to accountable for its decisions, and that we need an implementation of a just transition process that is proper, morally and ethically driven, and that we needed that department to abandon the dream of rolling out high-tech nuclear power to South Africa and the African continent. And once again, my deepest appreciation to all of you. And if there is anyone else who has not been involved in any of our campaign activities, but you are interested, you are welcome to contact me, and then we will take it from there. Thank you very much, and God bless you.
Kalakani, thank you so much. You've been doing some amazing work and we really applaud you. And your message is so important right now, especially because our friends who are in countries other than South Africa, up in Africa, you face the same threat and you face the possibility that your governments will choose the same path as our governments have chosen over the past few years, and that you may face the same challenges. So please learn from us, learn from our mistakes, learn from our path, learn from our journey, and learn from what Kulekani has shared with you today. And we thank you for your support and your prayers as we continue with our efforts to safeguard our future communities, all of our future communities. It's 12 o'clock, so I'm afraid we have run out of time. But what an amazing experience this has been. And thank you all so much for joining us and for listening. And of course, to our speakers, Hajat, Joseph, and Rabbi Emma, for bringing us your wisdom and sharing your knowledge with us. It's been amazing to listen to you. I feel as if we've all been inspired and we've learned so much. Gabriel, my colleague, and Kulekani, my other colleague, always wonderful to learn so much more from you as well. Thank you for your participation. And of course, Chloe and Numisa, who have held the background for us, held the technical space for us. And we just think you're amazing. None of this could happen without you. So thank you so much, everybody. I have asked a young man whose name is Iman Musumi to close in prayer for us. And Iman is, I'm going to tell you now, Iman is from the Machinga Muslim Youth Organization in Malawi. And it's wonderful to have the voice of the youth with us as well. Kulekani, I know that you are the voice of the youth, but so is Iman. And I really would love to have you come forward now, Iman, to give our closing prayer.
Let us pray. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Ya Allah, we thank you for the wonderful meeting. Ya Allah, we thank you for the wonderful gathering, for you have been with us from the beginning to the end. Ya Allah, you have made us so attentive to the wonderful presentations. Indeed, Ya Allah, you speak the truth, and you are the one who is unique in your majesty. By the perfection of your beauty, glorified and exalted. Ya Allah, may you guide us along with those you have guided. Ya Allah, may you grant us success and victory of our own selves as we try to implement the community sharing. Ya Allah, may you unite us all, regardless of races, of religious background. Ya Allah, may you grant us authority over our own affairs to those who are the best of us. Exalted is you, Allah, the mighty, above what you have described. Peace be upon all messengers. Praises to you, O Allah. Glorified be your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you
Amen.
so much. Amen.
Amen.
Thank
Amen.
you. Amen. Last thing, would you like to please put your camera on before we leave so that Chloe can take a photograph?
Amen. Amen.